Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Endless Celts Podcast. Hope you're all well who's listening. What a week it has been. I'm joined by Phil McGinley and Francis. How are you?
All
Good,
good,
Stephen,
mate.
all
All
good.
good. Totally forgot how
Good
short
lad.
your intro was there, and I was like, "Oh my god, we're on here!"
The Bhoycie Bus loves an intro, but we're glad to have you on, Phil. Thanks for coming on with us.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing me on, mate.
No problem at all. To everyone who's watching along, great to see you in. Paul Dad's in, our very own John's in, Brown Warriors in as well. And it's what a week. Celtic are back in action in the pre-season. We've smashed 1,000 subscribers, which is
Well done,
fantastic. We appreciate all the support. It felt like forever getting there, but we've finally done it. And also in that week as well, we announced a partnership with Lurgan Celtic Football Club based in Ireland, the Wee Hoops of Ireland. So a lot to come from that as well. It's been a great week for the Endless Celts podcast. The boys are back in action. I'm coming to yourself, Phil McGinley, as the guest on our show from the Bhoycie Bus, the man himself. Celtic back in action, walk in the park, wasn't it?
Oh, it was absolutely that. It's the thing is with a game like that, and I knew before going into it with the opposition, it's like, what can you really read into it? But I'll be honest, as poor as the opposition were, I quite enjoyed the intensity. I quite enjoyed that fact that it was quite ruthless. It was a bit like, I guess I said it on Twitter, Ivan Drago in Rocky IV, if he dies, he dies. Where it's just like, no, well, this is how we're going to play, and Ange is just going to get them started right away. Start how you mean to continue. Just got battered in there right away. And yeah, there was genuinely a point where it was like every time we were going forward, it was just goal, 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 goal. But yeah, it was just good to really just to see another Celtic game again, because it has been quite a long pre-season. It really has felt that way. So yeah, it was nice to see them again. So yeah, looking forward now to the next one. So it should be good.
100%. I mean, it was, as you said, there was points in that match, so you're going like, they need to do something here, otherwise it'll turn into a massacre. But Craig White, the legend, comes in. Hello, guys. Where's Stephen's Hearts colours? Well, I mean, the funny story to this, I think them two have came coordinated, so I'm probably the manager in the tracksuit. These guys have rocked up here in Italian retro shirts.
Welcome to Endless Football Italia tonight. All we need is a backdrop of like an Italian cafe and a cappuccino. That's what we need.
And then Franny, Phil's in the Florentina, isn't it, Phil?
Florentina,
number?
1960s away shot. Yeah, I don't know any 1960s Fiorentina players. Don't even ask me. I don't know.
Well, we'll put you to the test, and then Franny rocking the Milan one. How are you, Franny? And the Celts back in action. I said to him, easy game.
Yeah, well, I never seen the game, Stephen, due to work and things like that. But what I have read and things like that and heard from folk, it was a pretty positive performance, like a bit of hunger with the guys that obviously on the fringes and things like that. So I think that's all really you can really take for the game, because obviously the opposition by accounts weren't great. I think you could see that, but the fact that guys looked hungry and stuff, I think that's kind of what I'm taking for the game and stuff. That seems to be a sort of Ange's kind of mantra, and that's like, I think that's maybe what he was looking at, just to see how much folk wanted this to, and then they'll maybe get more involved in other pre-season friends, like your guys like Kenny and maybe even Julian and stuff like that, who maybe put in good performances. So I think it's one of the ones that they're on trial, with it being on trial, so to speak. I think it's just try and perform now, get yourself involved in the next friendly, and just go for there, really.
Yeah, it's all about staking the claim. And before we move on here, someone brought up the kit. I think it was Kevin. I mean, there's been a lot of thing about this kit, the new one with the silver stripes and stuff. I thought it looked all right, Phil. I mean, looked like the hoops to me. Yeah, the silver stripes at the top are a bit controversial, but what are you thinking about? I think it looked all right in the flesh.
Mate, see the whole brouhaha about the hoops. This happens every year. I feel, going back to the New Balance stuff and Nike, there was even times when it was really controversial. My feeling is, it just clearly shows that we must be in pre-season if we're debating the whole shot. It's like, we need a game. We need an actual game to get our teeth into. And I thought they looked fine. And I've always said from day one, the silver, I think, represents silverware. That's generally what I think they've went for with that one. I don't think it really offsets. I mean, you saw it in the sun the other night, that beautiful Austrian sunset. It looked all right. It looked fine. At the end of the day, it's the hoops. It's fine. Most people are going to buy it. But yeah, there was a point last week where I was like, we need a game of football. We need something. People are going crazy and arguing really aggressively on Twitter about a kit. I'm like, calm down, everybody. It'll be fine. So, yeah, I agree. The kit looks absolutely fine. It's all right.
I think so as well, Franny. I mean, you're sitting there rocking the retro gear, so I mean, you must be a fan of it. Like,
Nah, I'm still one of these ones that didn't like it for the silver stripes and stuff, but I've not quite seen it in the flesh of that. But Phil does make a good point. I mean, there's worse things we could be complaining about. It's seasons gone past, we're like rushing about trying to get players in. If all we're moaning about having an argument about a home kit, I can live with that all day long, Stephen.
100%. But we'll get stuck into the lineup, Phil. And the first player we all wanted to see was Burnaby, the left back from Argentina. He's come in. Now, I've seen a lot of people saying on Twitter, this is why I brought it up to you guys and kind of the topics I kind of sent out. Has he already staked the claim? What is seen from him? He was aggressive. He was quick. Although sometimes I don't think him and Mickey Johnson were on the same wavelength. I felt like Johnson was trying to impress for himself, which is understandable because he has a lot to do and he's a lot to overcome. But Burnaby was bombing forward. He was getting into that inverted fullback role quite easily, I thought, and taking players on from the middle of the park. What was your opinion of him watching him on that brief? I think it was 45. What was it, 50 minutes he was on?
Yeah, it was. He didn't finish the full game, but no, I felt the exact same as you. I thought he did look exactly how. Funny enough, how the YouTube videos portrayed him. Sometimes you don't read too much into that, but and again, it just proves how Ange has got like a good track record so far with his signings. Where we've got to a point now where we trust Ange. You know, where every player, even though it might be from an obscure market, you're like, this guy knows what he's doing, and this guy's come in Burnaby, and he looks exactly how we expected him to be. And in terms of like, it's going into this season. I know he's only just arrived, but I do think he is the first choice left back. Greg Taylor will play his part. I mean, it's a long season. We're going to need a big squad, so Greg Taylor will get his games. But when you're spending that much money on a guy coming in from, it seems like there's a lot of potential, a lot of talk in Argentina. This boy's going to just keep getting better. I can't see him coming in to sit on the bench the whole time, but no, the early signs are encouraging. So yeah, more of that, please, definitely.
I think as well, you make a great point with the Argentinian side of the media. They're all bombing and raving about him. Probably a few elements are surprised Celtic got him as well in terms of the transfer fee and his next European destination, Franny. And what is seen of him, I think Phil's right. The YouTube videos paid tribute to that. I mean, we've seen Amido Baldi on YouTube look like a world-class finisher, but this is a totally different kettle of fish. But Greg Taylor on our podcast, you know yourself, John doesn't really fancy him that much. Me, myself, personally, I don't either. Phil saying Burnaby's going to be first choice. I don't know yet about that, Phil, but what about yourself, Franny?
I will side with Phil to an extent because I think Ange, he wasn't going to get every target he got last season, and it's like Phil said, you're not spending nearly $4 million on a guy to sit on the bench. That's just the way Celtic are, essentially. We don't tend to do that, and it's the way sort of football works. Taylor wasn't brought in by Ange, so this guy is, so sort of favouritism to an extent. Take that. That's clearly that's obviously not Chris Fraser either. And so I'm not saying favouritism kicks in. It's a wee bit more complex than that, but I think it's obviously Ange's guy, so he's probably got to get the nod. If he performs, obviously. If he doesn't perform, Greg Taylor's got to come in. We've seen that for Ange's with Ralston Juranovic, although Juranovic played the majority of the games. Ralston kept the jersey on the back of good performances and got the jersey on merit at times. So I do believe that'll work not just only for the right back and left back. It just only seems to be obviously Callum McGregor, the two centre halves and the keeper, that's no really comes into the equation. But every other position seems to be a bit open for debate on who'll start in Andy's mind if you'll get it on merit. But I believe Burnaby is in there to be first choice left back. I believe it will be just simply because it's Ange's guy. And like you say, the stuff you read in Argentina, they reckon maybe this World Cup's too soon for him, but the next tournament that there's talk of maybe being in the Argentine squad. Obviously, that will depend on how he performs at Celtic, but I think it probably will be the left back.
Yeah, I take it in Argentina, Talafico's still their first choice left back, isn't he? The former Ajax player.
I
think he is. Have I got you there, Phil? I've got you there. Yes.
I felt like over the last few years, Argentina, all I think about is Messi and Aguero and Di Maria, and then the back line and the goalkeeper's usually pretty bony. To be honest, I don't even know. Is Gabriel Heinz still play? I don't even know, mate.
Gabriel Heinz and I, come on, you're taking the piss there, Phil. But Bruce FM comes in, Phil, about this, and he says Greg Taylor's not number one, but Burnaby has what it takes to stake a claim for the jersey by the end of the season. There was someone else there as well in terms of the height in the defence. Obviously, I think he's 5'5", but I mean, there was a big hoo-ha when Kyogo first came in from certain quarters of Scottish media about his height, and he proved all the doubters wrong. But is it actually a concern for you if you look at our back four? It's not the biggest, especially going into European competition. If you're starting with Burnaby and Juranovic, Carter Vickers isn't the tallest, and whoever's going to be beside him, if Starfelt doesn't come back from injury soon.
I'm not too concerned about the height. I mean, even last season, there was games we were playing against a lot of cloggers with big long balls up the park, and we were dealing with it for the most part. So when we're going into European competition, you don't traditionally come up against teams that are all about crossing and high balls and long balls up the park. It'll all be mostly on the ground, especially the Champions League. We're going to be playing some, teams that are just going to pass it around as we triangles and play the old tiki-taka stuff. Hopefully we don't get too schooled on it, but I think in Europe we should be okay. It's all going to be about defending with our feet, mostly with that one. And I think, Carter Vickers especially, he's shown that he's definitely good at that. And Starfelt, my feeling on him is he's very good at reactions, but it comes to when he has to dwell on the ball, he can be a wee bit shaky still.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to just the ball's coming to him, he's got to clear it quickly. He usually deals with it, not too bad. So yeah, I'm quite confident at the moment with what we've got for Europe and height. I'd say I wouldn't be too concerned about it at the moment, unless if Sam Allardyce manages somewhere in Europe, we're going to go up against some sort of Brexit type team with a big long ball up the park. I don't know. So yeah, I don't think we'll go up against a team like that.
I think he's too busy being caretaker manager at number 10 at the minute. Big Sam and Warnock as the assistant. But I mean, as well, Franny, you look at the height thing for me. I don't know. I'm a wee bit on the fence, a bit like you sometimes, stuck on there with the splinters on. I don't know. Sometimes you need a bit of physical presence back there. I know Juranovic he's good at attacking stuff. I mean, albeit he had Canton on his back pocket last season. Burnaby wasn't tested defensively in that game against, is it Weiner Victoria, whatever they're called? I don't know. But I think it's the latter one of that. But the defense side of things with Burnaby.
Stephen, let's not trust you in any.
No, Phil. No,
sorry.
That was horrendous.
Don't bring that back up, please. And how the constancy in the comments bit here, right? I can see. I just laughed for about 30 minutes. It was Shakira songs. There was all sorts going on. But I mean, you look at it, Franny, with Burnaby in. Would you be confident at the moment what you've seen of him to put him in as first choice ahead of Greg Taylor?
But I've only seen him on YouTube, so everybody's a superstar on YouTube, mate. So I would put him in front. I would put him in front of Taylor, but YouTube's a bit, like you said. I made a Baldy was a good player on YouTube, so I've not seen him in the flesh yet. But what I've seen him on YouTube, we've got a superstar.
Superstar who likes a headbutt.
Maybe that's a good thing with the height. If he's no, as tall as a lot of players in the league, so he'll not be able to headbutt them.
Aye.
I think that's a great point there, Phil. Like, it'd be a bit like the Ralston Juranovic type scenario when Juranovic first come in, kind of playing them off each other, so he does the best, and Juranovic kind of takes that jersey for himself.
Ralston's improved because of Juranovic. We might see something similar with Taylor. See, I think Burnaby is his jersey to lose from the start of the season, but Taylor will still play his part, and I think he will learn a lot from Burnaby and get better because of the technical ability. I know Taylor's older, so you think, how can a younger guy be teaching older? But it'll be down to technical ability. They'll learn off each other, and competition's good as well for each other.
Can't hear too many good players.
100%. Oh, no, definitely not. No chance. And then John comes in. I'll say it again. If you're bringing in a new left back and he's not good enough to ice Greg from that position, then that's poor business. Back up is fine. And we want to improve and all those, but I think that's fair enough. Monty agrees with that, John. You're spot on. But just to kind of move on to like the player side of things, obviously it was a totally different lineup, Phil. Gucci was in, Bosun Law was in, Uragidi was in. Some of these players for me, like Bosun Law, I thought was good. He gave a good account of himself. He was strong. He was physical. He looked quick. Gucci, for me, I thought he was probably up there with player of the match, man of the match.
Yep.
He was so good, calming the ball. He was effective in his job, and he kind of went about a quiet business type player. You know what I mean? He doesn't really get noticed, but he came up and he finished captain as well. But who stood out for you in that?
Well, first of all, on Gucci, at one point, because the camera work was quite shoddy, I thought Gucci had actually scored a goal because Kenny's second one, the cameraman zoomed in on Gucci walking back to centre circle, and I was like, "Oh, Eddie Gucci scored." And then the guys in the Bhoycie Bus chat were like, "No, it was Johnny Kenny that scored." I was like, "Oh, shoddy camera work, sack that cameraman."
It was terrible.
dreadful. But no, I thought he played really, really well, and it's encouraging to see because we've obviously had 6 months of him not really featuring. Obviously, he got injured early on, but out of all the players we brought in from the Japanese league, especially the ones in January, you're kind of wondering when's he going to get his chance. And the early signs were encouraging there, and we're near Beaton now finally disappearing. Maybe that is going to be the ready-made replacement, or that is going to be his area when he does play in that sort of deep holding midfielder. Because it's quite encouraging what I saw from him. So the future's definitely bright, and it does give me a bit of encouragement because see the other Japanese guys were all getting games. You'll go, and you signed this guy, and you're not even playing him. Is there something that we don't know? But no, it's so hopefully this is a new dawn for him, and he really comes on leaps and bounds in the next few months.
I think as well, what you've seen of him, he covers the ground really well, doesn't he? I think he's quite deceivingly quick. He can play a killer pass. He can get forward and join the attack, which is great to see, Franny. And obviously, I know you didn't see the game and stuff like. But I'm sure you've seen the lineup. I mean, you're fucking kind of limiting me what questions I can ask you here for. But I'm sure you've seen the lineup, obviously, and the types of players. Urgidi, as I say, we're back in. But out of that list, although you didn't see them, who would you like to see push on and maybe stake a claim for a place in the first team?
Boston Law, because he came with a bit of a reputation in the sense that I think he'd won Academy Player of the Year at Watford before he came in. So there's also a wee bit about him, like a wee bit of hype, if you like, about him. So it was good to see him. Urigidi maybe kick on because it could allow you, because I believe we probably need a centre half, even if Julian stays. I would like another one in. But if he can kick on, I would probably be happy with Julian, Urigidi and Welsh as backup. But I think Julian was one of the ones I was glad to see, and hopefully he does kick on, because like me and Ross, and I think even Will have said, like I totally rate Julian. I think he's a top player for us, and on paper it just seems the perfect player for us. How we can play the passes, he can bring it out for defence. He's a threat in the opposition box for set plays and stuff. So for me, a wee bit of me was happy the Schalke Stephen move fell through, and because obviously it's no slant in Starfield because the guy has not really put a foot wrong last season. But for me, I would love to see if him, Carter Vickers and Julian could actually form some partnership, because I think it would, as I say, on paper Julian just seems the perfect type of player for us. But obviously due to injury, and there's obviously some other things, there is a reason he wasn't getting played to the end of the featured more last season when he was fit. Obviously we'll get into like critical points. You couldn't really gamble on the centre half partnership, but I bet of me wants to see if he'll hang about and really stake a claim to try and get that position back, because I do really rate him as a football player.
Yeah, maybe take his Instagram account off him for a month or two to stop posting random shite. But I mean, before we go on the Julian argument, which obviously you mentioned kits, Julian's come up in everything I've ever seen in terms of summer of Celtic related stuff. But in terms of other players, Phil, there was Rocco Fada come in, Josh Deedy, Bosun Lawwell played. I think who was Matthew? I can't remember his second name, but he played left back in the second half. Do you remember second
Anderson name? Came on. So
yes, Anderson. Yeah. So like you got me back. That's funny.
Got it back.
The youth players, and then Urigidi slotted back in the centre half. In terms of that, like Rocco Fada for me, I thought looked really good. He looked really positive with the ball, took his goal really well. He didn't fucking flash at it, much like the opposite of Albinieri, who did not look interested one bit. That guy didn't look like he could be arsed at all. But other players, who do you think kind of stood out for yourself?
Well, on the thing that impressed me about Rocco Vata's goal especially is one thing that can be bad. Well, it's a bit of a 50-50 or catch-22. You've got too much time on the ball. Sometimes that could be a bad thing because you dwell on it. But other times, you've got a long time fight, and he composed, running through and goal. He had the whole half to run through, 50 yards at empty space. And you're like, oh, young boy, is he going to fluff his lines here? But no, he finished it really, really well. And I know about the opposition weren't exactly great. But again, he's in that position, and he's finished it really well. So I thought that was quite, good for him. And there's a lot of hype about Rocco Vata. Plus, his name is also connected to the club with his dad. There was again what Francis said about that Boston Lawwell, not Lawwell, Peter Lawwell. You know, when we signed him, I was like, oh wait a minute, this is a bit too close to home. This one.
That's what I'm saying, isn't it? That's what I'm saying, isn't it?
No, not at all. I'm just saying like it's the way it's how you put things, wow or something like that. But yeah, he looks very accomplished as well. Looked composed on the ball. So. And they're getting a lot of talk from like the B team. I've not seen much of the B team in the last year. I don't catch like the highlights on YouTube, but he seems to be one that does get a lot of praise from like media that cover the Lowland League stuff. So there's definitely I think a future for him. And I think Johnny Kenny as well with the.
Aye.
I mean, when I saw the lineup, I saw Kenny up front. I was getting, the whole flashbacks. I was like, Kenny? I was like, can it be? No, it's only Johnny Kenny. But not fair play to the lad, getting 2 goals. And obviously, I enjoyed the memes and the jokes about Julian stealing the 3rd one off him. But
that was shocking, wasn't it? That was shocking.
It was quite funny. But it's he looked pretty good in terms of like sharpness in front of goal. So yeah, the future looks bright. There definitely is players there because one of the things that's really up to me is how many youth players we've been losing in the last few years. And it's not Celtic's fault. It's not necessarily Celtic's fault. The SPFL have not got a decent structure. This B team playing in the Lowland League, it's something, but it's not great. I mean, with Ben Doak who left, he's going down to play for Liverpool, essentially Liverpool's reserves. But if he's playing for their reserves, he's playing against professionals still. But in the B team, and am I right in saying that if the Celtic, Rangers or Hearts B teams were to win that league, they don't get promoted into the
they stay. So
there's nothing on the line. There's no consequence. So how can a player stay motivated from that? So these things are one of the main contributors to why we're losing so many youth players. So hopefully there's a path for these guys to get in, get a chance from time to time this season. It'd be really good to see.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of what people think about it, I think sacking off the reserve league was a mistake by the SPFL. At least it keeps it within the clubs and they can play against each other. Then they can move up and progress. I don't know if there's a rule in the B League or the Lowland League, 5 games you can't play or whatever. I just think it's stupid. And as you said, the level of opposition, Phil, no disrespect. It's shocking. It's probably the same as last night or the other night against Weiner Victoria. Coming to yourself, Franny. Very true. This is a debate. Obviously, people are speaking about a lot at the minute. Starfeld's injured. Postecoglou confirmed it could be literally until the start of the season before he kicks a ball. If so, Julian's there, Ugidi, Lawwell's in. Thanks for correcting me, Phil. I think I was saying Lawwell to be fair.
Well, generally, what's to you? It's just I'm trying to take myself. Come to Lawwell. No, it really wasn't.
But with obviously the types of players we have at the minute, obviously another centre back can be signed. But getting into a game, who would you start with beside Carter Figures at the moment?
I'd go Julian all day long, mate. I really do think the guy as a player, and when you think obviously it'd be him, Lawwell, Irrigidi or Welsh. Welsh has never really let us down, but I'm just not sure if he's going to make that final step. Or that's down to could be like never featured Watts last season, but for me, I would go with Julian. Just experience as well. He's 29-year-old, 30 maybe now, but he's got plenty of experience behind him. Clearly, he has got a bit of a reputation around Europe because he's not really kicked a ball for us in 18 months when teams like Schalke are having a look at him and that. So I don't believe Schalke will be the only team sniffing about him, but there might be other teams round about. So whether he hangs around or not, it's a different argument.
Totally agree.
No, who's going to model the jerseys then? I mean, to be fair, but the players we are signing, we're hardly signing an ugly player now, so we are covered. But I would have to go with Julian, mate. I really liked him when he came in. He did impress me. Then to think he obviously got injured in a dead rubber game essentially, and putting his body on the line because I think we were up 2-3-0 against Dundee United at that day, and he put his body on the line and just really. Turned out it was really unlucky, just started done his knee in, but I just want it to work out for the guy at Celtic, but I don't know. There seems to be something there that he may. I'm not too sure by the end of the window if he still will be there, to be honest with you. But
I think as well. I mean, a lot of people are divided. I think this is a great point. Ben Davis plays Julian's attitude is stinking. Again, that's outside what we see in terms of what he's posting and things have been shared, things have been said about him by certain people. He was close to Karamoko Dembele, who's left up under a cloud, who came out and said that Postecoglou didn't like the way he played, not Julian himself, Dembele I'm talking about there. But again, that's just perception, isn't it, Phil? We don't know what is actually going on behind the scenes. We're not ITK, as you and Russell always say. We're not in the know accounts or anything at all like that. Do you know what I mean? So it's impossible to know. But in my opinion, my biggest fear with Julian is the style of play that Ange Postecoglou plays. I've said this in our previous podcast. I don't think he's quick enough on the turn, where Starfelt for me is. He's got great recovery speed. Starfelt's a great reactive defender, in my opinion. Julian is technically good in the ball. He can spray a pass. That's no problem to him. But it's that other side of the game that Postecoglou thinks looking at, because he can work in that with Starfelt in terms of his passing, his movement, where to be in the pitch. Where Julian to me does is a wee bit too slow, a bit Shane Duffy-esque and that kind of side of things in terms of going back the way. I don't think that would suit him. But get into a final game. This is obviously just hypothetical. You've got Urhoghide, you've got Welsh, you've got Lawwell, and then you've got Julian. Personally, I would throw in Urhoghide. I think Urhoghide came up well in the game against Weiner Victoria. He looked quick, he looked composed, he looked like he could take a touch. When we first got him, his touch was terrible, but I think Belgium and that league shaped him well because Jack Henry went there and was player of the season in the Belgian league. You know what I mean? So I don't know what that says about the standard, but I think he has improved as a player. Maybe it's just me clouding my thinking over Julian, but I do believe he'll be going out of Celtic Park. But what do you think?
Julian is such a conundrum because I agree with what Francis is saying, where if he's there. And if he wants to stay and really fight for the jersey, if it's because there were stories a couple of weeks ago that he wants to, the way it was worded, it made it sound like he was being really, digging his heels in and being really petulant. But if he genuinely is determined to stay and fight for the jersey, then I would go for Julian. But I totally take your point, Stephen, about there is issues with how Ange wants to play. Ange is all about intensity and quick pace, closing people down. Can Julian do that well? As you say, there is definitely pace issues. And this goes back to even before the injury. I felt it even in his first season with Neil Lennon. There's a couple of times where long balls over the top, we're catching them out and stuff like that. Now, no doubt about it, though, because one thing we are terrible at is set pieces with attacking. When was the last time we scored off a corner? It's a very rare occurrence. But under Julian, he's good at a set piece, a free kick around the area, a corner kick. He's good at getting the end of it because of his height. So the thing I would want to avoid, though, with Julian, let's say we don't sell him, let's say we can't get a suitor for him, and he stays, and we have a defensive crisis. I think back to Bobo Baldi in 2008, where Gordon Strachan completely alienated him, and it got to a point where, could you imagine Ange having to sit down with him and be like, so listen, mate, I know I've not really used you that much this season, but I kind of need you to play in this away trip to Livingston. We're coming up midweek or something, and it's like, you don't want the club to be in that position, but the thing with the Bobo Baldi one, because that did happen in 2007, where he did play one game at Tannadice, and he actually was really professional about it, despite sitting in the stands earning like 30 grand a week. Julian, going by what he's done on Instagram, because this is obviously modern day compared to back then, we didn't have social media, so we didn't really have an insight to how Bobo Baldi was fielding. Julian's attitude kind of makes me think he might be a bit more petulant, even if he was to play, but I would like to hope that situation never ever arises. But if he's genuinely determined to fight for the jersey and stay, if it happens and we can make it work, then I'm for it. But yeah, there is definitely deficiencies in his game that can go against him. 100% agree with that one as well.
But is that you saying if Starfelt's out, he would be your partnership with Carter Vickers?
Yeah, I would. On the first day, if Starfelt is still injured and Julian's played the full pre-season, because I get a feeling he will play most of the games. I get a funny feeling we're covering up because the transfer window closes at the end of August, so it might be a case of, look, we'll keep him around and try to get him a move for the end of August, but for the time being, we need him for now. That might be the best, the happy medium in all of this.
Maybe it's how we win. Just keep him in the pre-season, keeps him out there for folk to see. But if that doesn't happen, just keeping them fit and keeping them happy, so to speak.
Oh, totally.
I think as well, it kind of plays into that old saying when you play yourself into the transfer market, isn't it, for clubs to see it? Totally. Effectively, what you're saying, Franny, to be honest. But I mean, I do want to say that. I love
feeling that, if Starfelt's fit, it's not an option for me. Starfelt and Carter Vickers, you can't split that defensive.
You can't. No, they were brilliant together. And I just want to say thanks to everyone watching along. I mean, we've got a healthy audience at the minute. Bruce FM, Egyptian King, Brown Warrior still in, Alistair Jackson, My granddad's in. He's enjoying some retro games of himself on YouTube. 1965 Cup final. We weren't born yet, but it was fantastic. Unbelievable. But I mean, like, you look at it as well, Phil, you brought it up in terms of the game. We'll kind of round it off with the game as well here. The relentless attitude, the pressing that was seen from the start, even the young kids buying into it. Rocco Fada, Johnny Kenny was doing it. It was you heard them from the sidelines shouting instructions all the time, which was fantastic to hear as well. And another thing, I think Harry Kewell's added a different dimension. It was great to hear Postecoglou speak about him, that he likes to freshen things up, a new face for players to come into, kind of buy into again instead of same old, same old. But in terms of the game, they rounded off, the pressing was there, the intensity. It was just plain to see, wasn't it? There was no kind of ulterior motive, no other game plan. It was just that.
Yeah, it was essentially, it was just a start you mean to continue. So if some of these boys are going to feature during this pre-season and maybe even going into the season. I think there's now talk as well that the B team are going to be training with the first team at Lennoxtown. I think it was a story.
Yeah, that would be good.
So that's probably also part of the thinking as well. But it's like, well, if these boys do come up into the first team at some point during the season, they're going to have to be briefed on how we train and how we play. Maybe that's also part of why Steve McManus is going down to work closely with them. That's got to be part of it. But no, it was really, really good to see. I say there's one glaring person. I think one of your talking points later is talking about who's been a bit of a flop. But there's one glaring name from the other night that definitely didn't show the attitude that I think Ange's looking for. Because as easy as the other night was, it was a total training exercise. One thing he will have been concentrating on was attitude. And Mr. Ajeti did not look interested at all. But I'm sure we'll get on that later on. You've got to talk about stuff like that.
Ajeti almost felt like he was forced to play. It was like he does. Yeah. He had 3 chances where he could have finished that ball easily, and he just fluffed them. He didn't give a shit. He just turned back and walked away. It was horrible to see. Like
it was.
But I mean, Franny, like Phil said, in terms of the game plan, Ange Postecoglou, he's stepping it up game by game for the Champions League. We're rolling into it, aren't we? Like group stage, here we come. It was great to see. Like,
I thought it's like I said, it's the whole like 7-0, a relentless performance. Just put a team to bed, showed the team respect by turning them over. Essentially, it was not this as much as it's a training exercise, but they treated it professionally. And like Phil said, I think games like this where the opposition aren't up to much. I think just off the top of my head, like our pre-season games, we've not really playing any top teams. Yeah, we've got Blackburn and maybe Norwich in there, but like we're not playing any like glamorous ties like Premiership teams and things like that. So I think it's all about attitude and getting. I think it's all about just really seeing the players' attitude. I think that's what Ange's maybe try to get out there, see who you can rely on from maybe the sort of the lesser fancied players that he might need to call on 5 or 6 times during the season. Just say, well, I know I can trust him. We played against an absolute horrendous team, a boring nothing game that going up to Ross County, go to Livingston where Livingston's always packed with our fans, so it's probably a poor comparison, but some of the grounds you'll go to maybe midweek where it's ball, set, go, weather horrendous, hardly any fans, so he's maybe just try to use his sort of attitude for the players and things like that. So I think it's all positive now. It's just the only thing we seem to be moaning about is a kit, Stephen, so it goes back to that. If that's what we're moaning about, roll on.
100%. And I think another thing as well. There a thing just came in saying that at least Beaton, I think it was Ian McIntosh, at least Beaton won't be centre half this season, get into the Champions League, and that was actually confirmed because he signed for his new club. Was it Maccabi Haifa in Israel?
Is that who signed for that? Because I ken Neil Lennon's team was after him, eh?
He's signing all sorts. He's like Harry Redknapp esque, isn't it? I'm
back together.
Yeah.
Brandon Barker as well. He's just random him, like, but mad ahead, like he signed it for his luscious hair, didn't he? That's what he signed, Brandon Barker.
I'm not slagging anybody's here. I've got a decent home over here, Stephen, so I'm not saying anything.
But Phil, you brought up a great point. I'll start with Franny though with this one. I asked you, obviously, for this transfer window, pick a player each who you thought underachieved at Celtic, whether developed from the youth team up or a transfer brought in. Who did you go with, Franny? I mean, there was a whole list to choose from. Me personally, I'm struggling, still am. Like, so, what did you go with?
I've had to just go with Barkas, mate. I know we were on. We
Oh,
really were
no.
determined for him to work. We clung on, even like didn't matter how many clangers we made every week. We still stuck by him, Stephen. But this guy, 5 million. That's how that arguably will go down as Celtic's worst ever signing. So I don't know how it carry beat anybody but Barkas, mate. Sorry, I know. Sold my soul to the devil.
That to me, that's a lazy one. Like, come on here, you didn't think hard for that.
How could it be anybody else?
I'm only winding you up. No, I mean, I was thinking. Do you ever remember back to like Henri Camara when he came in to be the replacement for?
He was alone.
Henrik.
He was alone sign.
Aye, but even at that, Juninho, the Brazilian, even though he had a couple of great games against Rangers and things like that, he didn't quite make the hype. Lundberg, even the likes of younger players coming in, Oliver Capo, had great hype about him, didn't make it. Islam Farouz, Carmoko Dembele could be through in that mix now because he's fluffed it and went to France. But Phil, before I kind of give my one, what did you go with?
Well, my one, I think I mentioned earlier on, I just think that in modern day Celtic, especially Albion Ajeti, has just been so bad. And I say the other night just proved it, where he just doesn't care. So we're not privy to what's going on behind the scenes at the club in Lennoxtown. And I mean, for the guy himself, he's kind of stuck in limbo. But it's like, while you're here, I mean, look at Julian. At least I know I say there's a bit of a laugh when pushing Johnny Kenny out the way, but you know, at least he was committed and he was going for it. You know, at least he was trying. If he was trying to do it for his own benefit to put himself in the shop window, then at least he's doing that. If you want to get a move away, and nobody's going to buy you on the back of that. But yeah, that one stood out for me, and I'm just like, I just feel like, how are we going to solve a problem with this guy? We just have to rip up his contract and get rid of him. I don't even know. Where to go with that one at all. Barkas is a good shout though as well. To be fair,
he started flying as well, didn't he?
He did,
yeah.
6-7 goals in his first half a dozen games or something.
So weird, man. And then got injured, which has been mostly the story of his career at Celtic, and then came back and just was nowhere.
There's a shout. There is a shout.
Do we? Of course.
45 minutes of wonder.
Yeah. God, that was.
I think it's there's a long list. I mean, the clear winner in the chat at the minute, Shite, as me and my granda like to call him. I don't remember much of him, but what I do believe.
What's his name?
Shite. Aye.
What was Shite?
Because he was. Well, yeah, all right, no worries. And then Monty comes in.
I'm not taking a piss. That was his actual name. That's how you pronounce it.
Director was bad as well. Aye,
Director.
By the way, he just came in and like died or something, man. It like Carty.
Oh. 20 minutes against Ross County in his debut were a great 20 minutes. Then after that, it was just awful.
He scored like 15 goals in the Eredivisie the season before, didn't he? Coming from Ajax, and then
3.5 million.
Aye, he does fine.
When Ronnie Dyer took over, do you remember when Ronnie took over? He got a wee brief reprieve at the start of the season.
Yes,
and then he dived against St Johnstone scandalously. He won a penalty and got a ban for the compliance officer, and after that he never played for the club again. But he had a wee good start in pre-season and then took a dive against St Johnstone, and Ronnie Dyer wasn't having that at all. Like, off you pop.
I just went for something.
Help yourself, because did they know, like, after he left, say I just hung about because he was on decent cash in that?
Aye, he did.
Yeah, well, I was on like 20 grand a week. He was one of the highest paid players when
I think he was on a decent bit of coin, like.
Madman, like he loved his modelling. Every picture he put up was him modelling something. But I mean, I went for something that's kind of come up recently, and it's the Celtic Masters team, and there was a player that was in it, and I was like, what the fuck is he doing there? Carton Cole. I'm going for Carton Cole. He's playing tonight. Celtic Masters are playing tonight. I seen Rangers Masters were pumped 6-2 by Liverpool, so I think we're playing Manchester United tonight. But however, Carton Cole managed his way to get in the Celtic Masters team with Petrov, with McNamara, with Danley. You're like, what is going on with this world? But he was atrocious. I think it was like 7 or something. But he blamed it.
He couldn't have played money.
Nah, he blamed a handful of games.
I know he scored off his knee up in Inverness, didn't he?
He did, aye. One of the worst goals you'll ever see. It was him and Kazim Richards, wasn't it? We signed.
Yes, Kazim Richards. Remember
Kazim? Big Z.
Jeez.
We get beat off Rangers in that semi. Oh, he did. Aye. But remember, we lost that semi-final, and then that night, obviously, everyone's down in the dumps, and he just tweeted a picture of himself training at the game and just put hashtag Big Z. It was like, you prick.
He's the original Julian with all them posting, like, isn't he? He's the original Julian, like hashtag and everything, fucking all that crap.
I mean,
but
the guy was Zlatan Ibrahimovic with the ability. He was that type of character. He just fair play. I mean, he backed the sale, but
he
that
backed
was all he
himself,
done.
but he was fucking awful. He was fucking shite. Like he ended up at Derby. He's playing at Derby last season for Wayne Rooney. Aye.
God.
Last season, aye. So he's still kicking about. Like, but I mean, Carton Code for me. They made a song about him, and I seen an interview he did there recently with Sky Sports, blaming all his kind of failure. Ronnie Daly, obviously, the manager didn't agree with him, all this place, but he was fucking awful. And I'm going to move on here to some transfer rumor that's kind of appeared today. The chat's going mental for it, but we'll talk about it, Phil. It's only right we'll talk about it. Henrik Larsson's son, Jordan Larsson, freed from his contract from Spartak Moscow. Looked like he was signing for a club. I think it's fell through. I think it was AIK. They were informed first. Okay. That's fell through. The Sky Sports guy, Anthony Joseph, who is quite reliable, said that Jordan Larsson has been in contact with a number of clubs in Europe, including Celtic and Nottingham Forest, etc., etc. What are we thinking? Is it high hopes?
Well, from fan point of view, we've all got high hopes. I 100% would be all over it, and it's nothing to do with the fact that his dad was like the greatest player we've probably ever seen playing for the Hoops. The boy in his own right is a good player. He's got the track record to prove it. A few years ago, when he signed for Spartak Moscow, keep in mind the Russian league is significantly better than the Scottish Premiership. He finished like the third top scorer that season, like 15 or 16 goals. And it's like, well, see if we wanted to buy him, just if he wasn't out of contract, a player scoring that many goals in the Russian Premier League would probably cost upwards of 15 million, 20 million. And it's like, this guy is now a freebie. He's got caps for the Sweden national team. So it's like, he is a risk-free move. It's a marketing, it's an own goal if we don't go for it. The marketing alone is like, you've got to go for it. You know, we'll make absolute bank on it with the shirts that we sell, with the name on the back. Celtic fans thinking about getting Larsson on the back of a shirt again. It's a dream. And yeah, if it can be done, then I'd be all over it if I was Celtic. No hesitation.
I think as well, I mean, I'm looking at this tweet, and John's come up with it here, Phil. In the last hour, Sky Sports journalist has confirmed he's been in talks with his reps, and Celtic are in talks. But you have to kind of take that into context, Franny. His reps have contacted a lot of clubs in Europe, and a lot of clubs maybe replying back. Celtic are one of them. And he also says there's Bundesliga and Serie A clubs. Milan and Fiorentina. He's fucking bandits. But as Phil said, it's even the move. I know people are kind of playing out an emotional standpoint because of Henrik and the King and stuff like that, but bring him back to paradise. Bring them both back because he'll be there with him as well. I think it's a free risk. Why fucking not? We're champions. Get it done.
100% it's a free risk because, like, the shirt sales alone will pay back whatever signing on for your contract you give them, at least for that season, the first season. You'll make the whatever outlay you have for at least for the first season back, no problem, because everybody will want Larsson on the back of their jersey again. So for that point of view, it's great. I mean, I's a good. I'm not got professional a lot, but you do follow him simply because he's the king's son. It's you just felt obliged that you had to have a level of interest in the boy's career. Just I think a bit of you grown up, obviously, your age, Larsson is probably the best player we've seen at Celtic. So
my word 11.
Say, I know, yeah.
That's right, yes. The controversial world 11.
Fucking ruined it. Fucking ruined it. So when his boy starts playing football, makes it professional, and starts making a decent enough career for himself, there's always that like you said, Stephen, the emotional bit pulls you. It's like, I wonder, one day, could it happen? Could it happen? Then it's almost a bit, not like Brendan Rodgers, but the stars kind of aligned for Brendan Rodgers to come to Celtic. He needed a route into football. Maybe just as one of them, the stars aligned.
And his son played a pre-season game for Celtic.
By the way, did I? But it was not a move I really thought about, and I was obviously, I would say it would get a lot of time in the bank. He would get a lot of credit in the bank because of who he is. Like, he could do a John Hartson, go 10, 12 games without scoring, and nobody would bat an eyelid. Will give him time. It's Larsson's son. If it doesn't work out, nobody, I think, would ever be on his back as well. It would always be, we really wish it would have worked out, and like, we'd all wish him well if he, after a season or 18 months, it just never worked out. I don't think anybody would be like, it was a mistake. It would just be, at least we tried. We tried to give him a chance, but I was kind of on the fence, and then I think it was Bhoyce's. I think it was him and Jonathan on the Monday Club. Like, I actually messaged Russell on the back of it as well, and I was like, I was kind of on the fence, and you mentioned, could you imagine just standing on the step? I think he said standing on the steps, Larson one side, Postecoglou the other side, and Jordan in the middle holding the jersey. I was like, nah, sign him up. Just on that, just for that picture, sign him up.
It was very into his grey suit idea as well. It had to be Henrik in a grey suit. Had to be.
Honestly, fella, just that I messaged him on the back. It was like, I was on the fence until you mentioned that. So you put that scenario on me. I was like, I was wanted. But no, you look, he has got a good scoring record, and I think it's 1-3 and things like that. He can play sort of anywhere across the front three. So on paper, it would fit into the system on paper, but we've all said that Ange kind of goes for characters, but I believe it would be the right character for Celtic because his dad's a decent enough bloke and would be like, you're not taking the piss with Celtic at the end of the day. It would be, you need to have that attitude for this to work here, and you will have the right attitude, but it's whether it's obviously, it's easy to say, it's whether Ange wants it to happen or not. I don't think Ange is going to sign guys on sentiment and just cause of who they are essentially, but I want it to happen just because it's Larson. It's one of them.
I think as well, like the Celtic Twitter admin,
he's just taken over with it.
You can tell by your face how happy you are to get the switch up. I think the Celtic, the admin for Twitter would have a field day announcing this as well. But I think as well, Phil, the move was talked about before he actually moved to Spartak Moscow. I think it was briefly when he was moving from Helensburg, wasn't it? He moved over there too. So, I mean, it has been talked about. But Robert Davey comes up with a great point here, and I'm going to put you on the spot. If, hypothetically, the Prince of Prince, as people are calling him now, so we'll give him that title, Robert Davies asking, who would he displace?
I'm so glad you brought that comment up because I clocked that one and I had I was going to, when you came to me, I was going to say, I saw a comment fly past, but my feeling is this, right? I've heard Anthony Haggerty say this on another podcast about you can't have too many good players. Take you back to a time, Russell appreciated me mentioning him, Martin O'Neill, sound of Martin O'Neill class. We had at one time Larson, Sutton, and Hartson all together. There's a very famous image where we played against Leon in a Champions League game, and all three of them are standing over the ball in the centre circle. And it's like, oh my God, all three of them at the same time. It's like, we can find a way to get Larson in there. And we'll look at it this way. Let's say Kyogo gets injured, and then Giacomakis had a bit of both of them had an injury. I checked out the season last season with injury. And then what we've turned into, Albin Ajeti, who we can't punt. We've got, Jordan Larson would be fantastic. And he has played wide left and wide right as well for Spartak Moscow, so he can play across the whole front.
He's versatile. Yeah.
He's versatile, he is. But no, I think I don't think you need to worry about who's going to displace, because I say when you've got that many good players on your books, it's a win-win for everybody. So I think it's because Kyogo's shown as well that he can play out wide. People keep thinking that he can't, but I think it was myself and Russell talked about. There was a game we played against Hearts at the start of last season in the League Cup, and Edward started through the middle and Kyogo was out wide, and most fans still say that was one of the best performances we had that last season. We were unbelievable, and that was Kyogo playing out wide. After that game at Ibrox, most people think, oh no, we can't play Kyogo out wide. But he's shown he can do it. Maeda's versatile as well, where he can go middle and out wide. So I kind of like that idea where the only guy out of all our forwards that's basically, this is his one position, is Giacomakis. But everyone else is, you can kind of move around. I like that. And I think Larson would fit in perfectly with that one. No doubt about it.
I think Patrick McLaughlin has your stat hat on here, Phil. Henrik has scored 80 goals in 250 games before he signed, and Jordan has scored 75 and 250. I think it's what you said, 1-3, Franny. And if you look at it as well, I mean, obviously, we could go on all night speaking about the emotional side of it, what Celtic could do and blah, blah, blah. But like people are mentioning in the comments, it's a free transfer, headache-free, probably small wages. You're talking here. Like, he's not going to be asking for the world. He was a Spartak and things like that. But you're looking at this from an angle. He can play across the front three. He can come in for Jada, come in for Kyogo, come in for anybody, really. Banging in Celtic board. And I don't know if they'll be in good graces, but they'll fairly make a name for themselves again.
I would tell. I mean, I'm probably guilty turning a blind eye to some of the board stuff when they're having a sort of a success and backing Ange, how they're having when things are going well. So I'm a wee bit ignorantly turn a blind eye to it, and this would just, for me anyway, if they brought in Jordan Larson, it was a bit of success. It would be one of the ones. I'm not going as far to say they could bring in a Bernard Higgins and I wouldn't have battered, but they would probably get a wee bit of grace for someone like myself, some more educated folk that know more about the board would maybe like, or they know the mindset of the board and know what they're doing here. They're trying to keep guys like me off their case, and I'm falling hook, line and sinker for it. But I think for the board's point of view, it's a great move for them. It would buy them with a big portion of the fans. It would buy them a bit of grace time and things like that, and give them a bit of sort of a like clout and things like that. So it's like, I didn't know this. What you've just caught me off guard, Stephen, because I thought this was a bit like Paddy Robertson with the fans. I felt like the fans got Celtic to go back and get him in loan, and that's what I'd seen on Twitter and stuff. I think it was Ekran, someone like is. I've seen a lot of things that Celtic players have been linked to coming for him, and I don't think anyone's came through. So when he,
I think he's sitting in the house, has a kite. He's done.
So when he tweeted that, I thought, there's nothing in it. Then when you're telling me Sky Sports, I'm not saying they're the most relevant, but they don't tend to say anything without any sort of say anything behind it. So I have caught my wee bit off guard, Stephen. Now I'm going to be up all night hoping
you're like,
tomorrow. I grew up with Henrik, man. Grew up with him, man. So it's his lad. It's returning. I've already got him signed. I've got him signed.
I love it, man.
Kaiser's come in. I'm still pursuing official lines on Jordan. I think as well, like, again, it's a no-brainer, right? In the transfer window, if a guy like that becomes available, the connection he has with Celtic with his dad, it's going to be talked about. People are going to tweet it. As you said, that fella from the Portuguese journalist, whatever he's called, Ekran or whatever, he's an absolute tool bag. Like, he gets nothing right at all when he tweets. I've noticed they eat like piggybacks off like tweets from 2 years ago. But I told you so. I told you so. But he talks absolute shite. But like, moving on, right? Jordan Larson's in the back burner now. We've spoken about that. The comments are going mad. Get him signed. We can't spend all night talking about him. We'll move on to the next pre-season again. The game, Phil, against Rapid Vienna. We've had some scrapes of them before in Europe and stuff, and a few tasty games. Like, but pre-season, are you expecting possibly a stronger lineup tomorrow?
I think it'll be a stronger lineup, but not significantly. It's just all about, again, attitude and fitness and stuff like that. So, yeah, you won't. It won't be too heavy on the B team, but I think some guys will still retain their place. I could see guys like maybe Larwell still staying in the starting lineup, maybe even Kenny as well. He could get a start as well. Maybe Siegrist should get a start. I mean, Siegrist got that half there. I think we'll probably do something similar where most of the guys that are on the bench will all come on at half time anyway. But yeah, I could definitely see us going for a wee bit more of a stronger lineup on that, because that opposition the other night were just they weren't there too much at all, man. They really weren't. But yeah, there's a few players I think as well, like Mikey Johnston, for instance, and James Forrest. Obviously, they got a start. Johnston, I've never been massively keen on. I'm one of the ones a bit like, I just don't
see why you're speaking about that, right? Why we side topic for us to chat about here, because I'm quite enjoying the chat. Like, it's good. Like Mikey Johnson, it seems like every pre-season this fella is staking the claim for his place, and he breaks down. This has to be for me his final chance. I thought he'd be packed out the door in January for a low move, and then possibly one of them options to buy for like Hibs or Dundee or something. But he's still here for me, and against that team, he didn't look good. He got a goal, fair play to him, but as I said, he wasn't the same wavelength as Burnaby and the rest of his teammates. I think he's a bit slow and laboured. But Phil, like you were going to say, I'm not keen on him no more. I was a big fan of him, but as literally years have went by, it's just time to probably just let go of him.
Yeah, there was those heavy days of August 2019 where he was actually quite good, and then it's not been the same ever since, where he had the assist against Rangers when we beat them 2-0 at Ibrox, the great ball through to Edward, and he made it 1-0. And there was a game we played against a qualifier against, it was like Sarajevo or something, and he scored an
he banged one in.
Worldy. But for that, like July, August 2019, at the start of that season, he was good. But I think, see the League Cup final they played that year where we absolutely shithoused it against Rangers and beat them 1-0. Remember, he missed an absolute sitter. See if that had gone in, I think a lot of people's perception of Johnson would be a lot better because he would be like a made man for scoring in that final. I genuinely do, because I can remember being at Hampden that day and he's through 1-on-1. I'm actually like grabbing my mate next to me because I'm thinking he's going to score here. And then he slipped at the last second to put it by the post. I like, see if that had just gone in, I guarantee he'd be viewed in a different light these days. Small margins like that. But no, I'm the same as you, Stephen. I think he's got to go. I just don't see him, especially now with guys like Jota, Maeda, Abada, even Forrest. I would still have ahead of him because he's been around for so long now and he's done so much.
I have Fada ahead of him.
So it's just like I just don't see where Johnson's going to really break in. So it could be this window or this pre-season. Maybe he's doing a similar thing. Maybe it's try to get him in the shop window, get him a few games. Maybe people will see him and think, I'll take a chance on him. Maybe. I
mean, Monty comes in, Franny, with a great point. He needs to go out and loan and play regularly for 90 minutes. And clubs, I mean, you look at Hibs, they've signed a few cracking players, Mikkelsen and Xavi Tavares from the Benfica B team where Jada came from. He looks an absolute baller too. So, I mean, in terms of Aberdeen, maybe players like that, Open Hill, Broomhill, whatever you want to call them, Open Goal, maybe they'll sign him. They got Kirk Broadfoot today. But what would be your solution for Mikey Johnson?
I suppose in an ideal world, it would be a success at Celtic, because then that means Celtic have been successful, and if one of your own homegrown players are coming through, there's nothing better. But I'm firmly used. I think for me, the ship sailed. I mean, it has been unfortunate. I think Phil makes a great point. If that goal goes in, a lot of fans give him more time, but he also could kick on for that as well. It gives him tons of confidence. And but I don't think he was helped out with was it against St Johnstone? Remember where he came on?
Probably.
That says it all at the end of the day. That comment, that you could end the conversation on that, and it's you probably wouldn't have much arguments against it. But I think it was against St John, like away to St Johnstone, where he came on. I think it was just back for an injury, and then how publicly when Lennon just told him to fuck off or something like that. I don't think that's helped the laddie at all. No. So I just, for me, I don't see a future at Celtic for Johnson. Whether he can do a Ryan Christie and go out along, because what is Johnson? He's still sort of feeling like 24, 25, isn't it?
He's 32. Had a potential.
He's like Jesse Lingard. Jesse Lingard had potential forever. He's like 30 years old. Lingard's potential.
I just feel like, because Christie was obviously slightly younger, like 23, 24 when it to Aberdeen or something, but there maybe is a chance that he could go. But I think for me, for Celtic, I think the ship sailed from, even if he did. I'm just totally going to contradict myself, which is no shot. But if you're going out and loan at 25, 26, you're not really coming back to the. There's a reason if you're in your mid-20s and you're going out and loan.
Effectively, you should probably sign for Chelsea. They loan all their fucking French players out for a year. So get them to there, like. But I mean, in the comments, there is a wee bit of divide. Kevin 14 said that he's still talented and we need him for homegrown stats. It's mad to think.
Like, he didn't play for a club like Celtic with talent at the end of the day.
Exactly.
He's not showing it enough. And you got to drop Jota and Maeda and Abada for Mikey Johnson. You're not going to do it. That's not a slant on the guy. It's just one of the things.
I mean, I don't know if Kaiser has a bit of wordplay here, but endless potential, so endless he never achieves it. Endless Celts, love it. But we'll kind of leave that Mikey Johnson chat, and we'll move on, obviously, to what we were going to say there, Phil, before you brought the fella up. But if you could, for tomorrow, as hard as it is, but it's a game, your score, even the first half lineup and your lineup prediction.
The score, well, I'll do the lineup first, let me think. I want to see Seagrass maybe get a start. Left back Taylor, throw him in there, give him a go. I say Lawwell, I would keep Julian and Lawwell, the centre back pairing, just to again with Julian, if we're going to need him for the sort of August games, it's good to have him a bit of fitness. Ralston, I'd suppose, get him in there. McGregor, he seems to always never. I'm amazed he actually got arrested the other night. Surprised to see that. Yeah. Duracell bunny, man, he just keeps going and going. But yeah, I'd say maybe McGregor. Shaw, he might get thrown in as well. Turnbull, Maeda. I'd stick with Kenny up front. I think after getting 2 goals, maybe he'll get a hat trick this time. Who knows? And Yeah, why not? Just throw Johnston in there. If we're talking about he's topical tonight, we'll just throw Johnston in there. Just keep him in. And prediction for a score, I don't know. I'll go for a Desmond 2-2. There you go.
2-2. I was actually you stole mine there. Like, to be honest with you, Phil. I was gonna go 2-each, like, because I think Rapid Vienna, regardless of the hate people have them, they're a decent outfit. Austrian top flight and stuff like that. So they'll probably be playing similar type players. So it'll be quite an interesting game. I'll go with my lineup first here. My first half one. I'll go Siegrist. I'll go Ralston, Julian, Urigide, Taylor, McGregor, Hatate again, and who was that? Ediguchi. I think I'll be the same. Johnston will play, Forrest and Kenny. So quite similar. And I'll go 2-each as well. But see, another thing about Johnson, it's quite mad to think he was part of one of our best performances at Easter Road last season for the first 45 minutes. He was in that team, wasn't he? It's crazy. Like, that came to my head there. But Franny, what about yourself?
Well, I was actually trying to listen closely to your teams because I'm kind of got to base it off what played the other night. So I do think a new heart obviously started. So I do think Siegrist may come in, just because it's a friendly, come in, and I'm probably going to go the same back four as Phil with Ralston, Lowe, Julian and Taylor, just simply because Bernabe started. I've heard a lot of good things about McCarthy, so maybe McCarthy and Ediguchi will start with.
McCarthy played well. I'll give him that.
And I don't know, maybe Tumble coming in, Forrest on the right. On the left, maybe Maeda, and I know we've slated him a few times, but he might. I'm going to start with a Yeti up front.
Oh my god!
Just simply, well, did Kenny start the last game?
Kenny started.
That's my only logic behind it. Seems just simply, you tend to find in friendlies not many players start, especially guys like French players like Kenny will start 2 games on the bench. I do think he'll feature in the game, but whether that's for the start, I'm just simply basing it on who started the last game, and I think things like that will come in.
Sure.
What's your score prediction?
I've got to go with a 2-1 win for us.
2-1? That's 2-each, 2-1. It could be quite tasty one, but to everyone who's watching on, that kind of brings us to the end of the podcast, and I just want to say thanks for letting us hit this 1K subscriber mark. It's been fantastic. And as Celtic said,
off before the Bhoycie Bus start.
And as Celtic said, it's going to get bigger and better, like Everton Football Club joining the Australian tour. So we're going to keep going and keep rocking with it. But your guys filmed the guest with Bhoycie Bus, the Wikipedia man. Have you enjoyed it?
I have enjoyed it, mate. I always enjoy just talking about Celtic and football in general. So yeah, thanks for having me on tonight. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. The hour has flown in. I'm glad I could drop that Mikey Johnston bomb in there that created some new debate. He's a very polarising figure. I knew it in my head. I was like, throw Mikey Johnston in there.
It's one of them ones, like, I didn't include him because he's talked about a lot, a bit like Julian. It's like Mikey Johnston, you can only say so much shite things about him. Do you know what I mean? It's one of them ones, like, but Franny, have you enjoyed it?
Buzzing, Stephen, you're not doing a quiz, so I'm all happy.
The quiz.
We're not getting beat off the Bhoycie Bus again tonight. So
all the quiz questions are fucking gone, by the way. Like, they're all gone. And that question is more special.
Then you need to do it individually and get beat again.
100%. But I mean, we'll be back on Monday again for a reaction to the Rapid Vienna game and other news if it develops. If Larson joins, we'll do an emergency podcast. But everyone watching along, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.
Okay.